Do you ever wonder how organizations like Statistics New Zealand are able to give us averages for national numbers, for up to 4 million upwards numbers on average? This average income for New Zealanders is XYZ, the average weight for New Zealanders is XYZ. Imagine trying to manually calculate the average. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to generate averages from a list of data in Excel. You'll be able to use a formula to find what the minimum was, what the maximum was, and how many submissions. So we're going to go through that together in this video. So what I've got here is a spreadsheet which you'll be working with a little bit later after this lesson. And what we're going to pay key attention to is here. And we're going to look at all those formulas and how each formula works. So let's start with averages first. So what an average is and what it tells us. So the average tells us what's the middle range. On average, what do people do? What does the average person do? In this type of spreadsheet, we're looking at senior graduates and how much fees that they've paid in their school fees. So let's have a look here. We've got a few things that we need to calculate in here. We need to calculate the average age, and we need to find out what the minimum age in this class is, what the maximum age, how many students, number of fees paid. So we're gonna go through each and every one of these bits and bobs. Okay, so in here is the current date. You'll need to do this as part of the exercise. So the current date would be equal to this, equals today, open bracket, close bracket. So as you can see here, that's the formula for that one. Now we're going to start off the average age. Now in order to do that, we need to go. Let's find a cell to put this in. I'm going to put the cell in here. I'm going to put information here. So for average age, you would go equals average. And as I type it, notice how it's already estimating what it is. Now, when it says number 1 and number 2, what it's actually saying is what numbers are you wanting to look at. Now, one long way of doing that is you go number 1, comma, number 2. And that can be quite long. What we can do instead of the comma is you can put in you can actually drag it. So click, we'll go again, equals average. And you can double click if that's faster for you. What we can do is we can drag, click and drag. Or instead you can go E6 colon on your keyboard to E, and so where's the last number? 20. Now there's something I've realized here. This isn't the column for average age. What this is actually the column for is fees paid. So we're going to click and drag here, which you can also do, or instead of having change ED to E. And then to finish off the calculation, we put in the bracket. And the format I need to change because it's telling us dollars when it's not. It's number. So the average age here of the students in the class is 17. So the next thing we're going to have a look at here is we're going to look at the minimum. So the minimum tells us what's the smallest number. Now, easier for us to just find the minimum here. You can see it looks like it might be 15, but imagine if you had a long list of hundreds of figures on it to maybe even thousands. So this is where this particular formula can come in quite useful. So we're going to do the minimum equals min d6 to d20. Now minimum age is 15. Alright. So that's how you do the minimum. What about the max? Same concept, but instead we go max. So who's the oldest in our class? And you can drag or do what we did last time, type in the D. So the oldest people in this class is 18. Alright. So what we're going to do now is what's called count A. Now, what count A does, it counts the number of cells that are not empty. So I'll give you an example. Let's do so student person 1, person 2. Let's see if this recognizes. So if we have 6 people, and one person has given me $1, one person's given me $2, one person's given me 3, and 1, 2, 3 have not paid anything, then we can use this count formula. So here you would see that 3 people have paid, and 1, 2, 3 have not. So if I do count, this would tell me how many people paid. So if I go equals count A, and it says here in the description, count A, and I choose this range, it will only show 3. If person 3 paid me $1, you'll notice that that also changes. If someone doesn't pay here or someone doesn't pay here. So that's where count A is it's very useful. So I'm going to do count A here. So equals count A, and we're looking at number of students. So what I might do is I'll go by the last names. So let's get A6 to A20. And so there are 15 students in this class. Now, number of fees paid in part or in full. Let's have a look here. So these are fees, and so we want to count that as well. So we can go equals count. So equals count, and we can drag, and there you go. So 15 students have paid fees, which is pretty good. Now we need to count the number of students in the red house. So notice here we've got students in red house and blue house. This is where we start using a different type of count, and this is called a count if formula. So I'm just going to show you now. So count, which is the function that it's going to do, but we're going to do count if. Now what it says here, count if counts the number of cells within a range that meet a given condition. So let's try this formula out. Double click. And so what it's asking for here is the range. So what's the range that we're looking at? So we're going to look at this area where it shows red and blue. And then I'm going to go, since I've put that field in, we put in the comma. Now it's asking what is the criteria. Now if we put in that something equals a word, what I can actually do is I can go quotation mark and then type in red and then quotation mark again. And what I can do is I can end that formula by putting in that comma. So here we go, it's count if, which will only count if it meets a certain condition. This is the range that we're looking at in terms of the data, and the criteria is that it needs to say red. If it doesn't say red, it won't be counted. So I've entered that in and it's given us 8. So let's just double check and see if that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to try the same thing but with blue. So we'll go count if, and then I'll start, and my range is going to be the same. Oh, and our criteria needs to be blue. You need to be careful and make sure that you spell this correctly, otherwise it might not work. So if I were to say blues, you'll notice it says that there's no one in house blues because there's no blues. So you just need to make sure that you're wary of that as well. We're going to use another COUNTIF, which gives us numbers instead of words. So this tells us words, but what we want to look at now is numbers. So we need to see how many of these students have paid more than 1,400. So we probably want to see who are the ones who gave more money to the school. So we're going to do COUNTIF, and then the range this time is, because we're looking at fees, this will be the range. And then we need to set a criteria. So what's our criteria for it to count? So it needs to be more than 1,400. So it doesn't even include 1,400. It needs to be over. Oh, so sorry, it actually needs to be inclusive of. So let's have a look here. So we do our quotation mark to start the criteria. And this icon means more than. So it equals more than. This one means equals less than. And then you can also do more than or equals 1,400. So it looks like we've put the quotation mark in the wrong place. So I'll just redo that again. So I've got 6 people who've done that. Okay, so again, COUNTIF, the range 1,400, and my apologies, I forgot to put in the equals. So there's 7 people who have paid either 1,400 or more in this. So what you'll need to do, the next part of this lesson is going to redirect you to your activity. You'll need to follow the same instructions here and produce this version for yourself, pop it into your forum, and your facilitator will make a comment on your post. Other than that, well, good job on coming this far.